Let's talk about the Dogs, fellas. Rusty, you and I had a pretty emotionally charged instant reaction right after the game. We do that every Saturday, right after the game is over. And I think that's great. That's great for people that watch and follow along with this channel. It gives you a couple different angles, right? We're going right into it. We don't have the full picture. We got some of the stats. They're probably wrong some of the time because we're just coming right in off of the game. Tonight, let's take a little bit of a measured approach and let's really diagnose what's going on here. There are some issues with this Georgia team, and Kirby Smart acknowledged that too. A win is a win, but they're not playing up to that standard that we're used to. And every team is different, of course. But I think when you see Georgia, you're just waiting for them to play a full game still 5 games in.
Yeah. It's you start picking things, you start getting real nitpicky on things. And I think as I sit back and watch the replay today, Georgia just doesn't have a Jalen Carter. They doesn't have a Trayvon Walker. They didn't have Devontae White. They don't. I mean, that's just the bottom line. It doesn't mean that they don't have really good players, but they don't have NFL first-round guys on that front line right now. They're still not playing bad. I just think people need to – it's going to take a little while to see how this thing is going to work. They're going to have to scheme things up a little bit different. And, they don't have that absolute, game record. They've had a guy that you just watch every play like this dude's about to mess somebody up. They've got a really good defense. They got a damn good defense. But I think personnel-wise, they've taken a step back, and it's just natural. You look what they've had the last 2 drafts, and it's just impossible to replace. They're still trying to replace Roquan Smith, and they may never replace Roquan Smith. I'm talking about one of the fastest middle linebackers you're ever going to see. They're not going to replace Brock Bowers. It's going to take a long time. He's one of the best players ever played at Georgia. So, it's going to take a step back in that area. When you have to replace him, it just is what it is. Now, I think people, what I was going back and watching it, what I was surprised was the amount of times that Auburn got the edge. And I'm not talking about just a quarterback run. I'm talking about outrunning people to the corner and able to turn the ball up the field. You don't see that much. And, I looked at it on watched it twice, just the defensive series from the second quarter on. And a couple of times they just got outran. And that's just something that you don't normally see out of a Georgia defense.
Yeah. You mentioned replacing guys, man. And we were talking in that group text earlier today about Darnell Washington. Listen,
oh, man.
I'll tell you, here's the thing. His impact is felt deeply in this, for sure. But the problem is you can't go get offensive tackles who play tight end every year, man. Those guys like Darnell Washington don't exist. Guys like Jalen Carter don't exist. Broderick Jones is another one of those guys, man. Georgia has lost some significant guys. And the thing that I've thought about all day is that Georgia has replaced elite players with really good players.
Exactly.
That's a big difference, man. So things that looked easy and looked doable before don't happen as easily or as doable as they did when those guys were doing them, because those guys are NFL first and second and third round picks. Georgia will have draft picks off of this class. There's no question about it. But I mean, you think about Brock Bowers, obviously slam dunk guy, right? Kamari Lassiter, slam dunk guy. Malachi Starks, no question about that guy as well.
And Michael Williams.
Williams, definitely. Smile Munden athletically, probably there, right? But when you think about in terms of, do they have a guy who's going to go into the league from the defensive line and abuse NFL veterans in the way that Jalen Carter is? That's not there right now. And that's not to say that those guys aren't good. That's just a testament to how good Jalen Carter really is.
Yeah. I'll say this too, real quick while we're on the subject. I do think Georgia's true freshman class on campus right now, and the guys they've got, I think they've got CJ Allen. I'm still big on Damon Wilson.
The guys in the pipe, pipe are the right guys.
Yeah,
they're just
Jordan
not
Hall.
there yet.
Correct. And I say this all the time. It took Jordan Davis until the Florida game of his freshman year for people to even know who he was. Now, we knew who he was. We covered the team, but the normal people are like, who's this big guy? You know what I mean? And it took him 8 games before he got into the lineup and they even found a role for him. So, I just think it's not an excuse. I'm just trying to give you reality right now that Georgia is not as deep as they were in 21 and 22. But I did say today on DawgsHQ that I do think they can still win every single football game. I think they can scheme it up. They got a great football staff, especially defensive staff. And I think they're just, Jake Rowe has said this, and Wes maybe they said it as well. You're going to have to win some games like this. It's not just going to be that one Missouri game or that one Auburn game this year.
Yeah.
You may win 6 or 7 like this, but the one thing I keep saying is, man, this football team knows how to win damn games. And, man, they keep getting hit in the mouth and they keep responding, man. And you don't want to live like that, but it just shows you. I think Kirby said it pretty summed it up pretty good when he left the field yesterday. He said composure. And I went back and thought about it. They had 0 false starts and they had 0 delay of games. I would have bet my house on one of them. If you gave me the house versus one of those, 100% to play in that atmosphere, that environment, and stay that composed as a football team says a lot about what's going on in Athens.
Shahid Huckabee with a comment here kind of lines up with what we're saying. It was totally fundamentals in the run game, not reacting to what they were seeing fast enough, allowing the linemen to reach them, all coachable and correctable. And yesterday, Rusty, I mentioned to you that the thing about this team right now is they don't have the ability to just go out there and dictate a game like the past teams did in 21 and 22. And at the time, I was wondering, is it because they're too composed? Have they bought into this composure mentality too much, to the fact that they're too reserved? But when you have guys out there that are new, they are young, they don't have the experience, and in some cases, they are just not as elite as some of the guys you're replacing, then you're not able to go out there and just instinctively know what to do. And what you're going to have to do is play in a lot of games where you get beat up, where you learn, oh, that's the wrong thing to do, or, hey, I was in the wrong spot. Because for these guys that aren't elite, for the guys that don't have the experience but maybe are elite, you're going to have to go through some of those experiences first to have those instincts like Nakobe Dean did at middle linebacker, to have the ability to just bull rush everybody like Jalen Carter did. So I kind of changed my approach on what is going on with this team and its identity. I don't think they're sleepwalking. I think that's a narrative about this team that I've kind of seen specifically this past 24 hours, is that they're sleepwalking. I just don't think they have the experience and the talent to dominate and dictate a game. Like think about that Arkansas game in 2021. That group, that's when you learn that those were real capital D dogs, because they didn't have to think. They could just play. And I think the hope for Georgia is throughout the season, maybe by the end of the year, you can have that, some semblance of that. But right now, you just don't have it. And that's why. I don't think this team is sleepwalking. I don't agree with that narrative. And I've had to challenge myself on it, but I don't think that's the case. I think these guys really do want to win.
That's not a Kirby Smart trait. You're not going to you might get your ass kicked one game, but you're not going to be a sleepwalking team. That's just not the mentality. They don't allow that. He's not going to, that's not going to happen. They may get beat, and they will sooner or later. Now they're not going to win the rest. Sometime they're going to lose one, but it's not the sleepwalking. That doesn't happen. Wes, I think you're spot on. That this team right here is having to kind of grow up on the field right in front of your eyes. It's not a closed scrimmage. This is national TV. You're the number 1 team in the country, won 22 games in a row. And every time you win, somebody wants to pick apart everything that you didn't do and everything that doesn't look right. Well, you know what looked right? They were down on the road in the SEC and giving the ball away, turnovers. A quarterback that had never been in that situation. And all he did was make every play that he needed to make for his team to win on the road. And I just think this is one of those games, man, that you go back and look,